Hello student. Last class we discussed molarity, molality relations and interconversions and that relations in terms of a mole fractions of solute and solvent. This class first I will discuss the equivalent concept. Then only we can proceed with the next concentration term which is normality. This equivalent concept is very important. Why? Because this will be utilized in electrochemistry also. And electrochemistry is a very important chapter as far as JEE Advance is concerned. So that's why to understood that equivalent concept not only required in normality but also it will be utilized in electrochemistry and even in ionic equilibrium. So that understood this equivalent concept properly is very important idea. Now if you look at, first I am telling equivalence concept or gram equivalence, whatever, some book used to say gram equivalence, same thing only, like your name and your nickname, equivalence and gram equivalence, like that scenario. Now I am just giving in small example. Suppose every morning you used to take the 2 idli for your breakfast. Then after taking 2 idli, your stomach used to say, I am full. So one day maybe idli is not there, you got dosha. And then after taking one dosha, masala dosa or plain dosa, whatever you just consider, after taking that one dosha, your stomach is saying, I am full. That means if you compare their mass, 2 idli and 1 dosa, they are not equal, but they are one equivalent to each other. That means whenever you are taking the 2 idli, your stomach is saying I am full, and whenever you are taking 1 dosa, still your stomach is saying I am full. That means 2 idli equivalents to 1 dosa. So that is nothing but your equivalence concept. So how much proportion of the substance they will react, the proportion of the substance which are reacting, that proportion are equal. That is the concept of equivalence. Let us start with that equivalence concept. Equivalence, or it is called as a gram equivalence, which is represented by E. Now equivalence will be equals to N means number of moles of the substance, what substance we are considering, into NF. N means N factor or valency factor. Valency factor. Regarding that, there will be a big discussion how to calculate N factor for acid, base, salt, and during redox, that time also we will discuss how to calculate N factor for different redox reactions, either oxidation reactions or reduction reaction, disproportionation or comproportionation reactions. Different example I will provide. When by learning that one, you will be confident on that how to calculate the N factors. Basically, N factor or valency factor is nothing but that one which will give you idea the electron losing or gaining tendency of an atom or one of the species. That is nothing but N factors. So now number of moles into N factors. So now number of moles equals to, already you know, given weight of the substance in gram divided by molar mass of the substance, that also in gram, into N factors. So now if you look at given weight of the substance into given weight of the substance, number of moles equals to given weight of the substance in gram divided by molar mass in gram. Now what I can do, write down over here, then equivalence equals to given weight by molar mass by n factor. This was there and this n factor is coming over here. Now molar mass by n factor, this is EM. EM is a equivalent mass or equivalent weight, whatever you call it. Equivalent weight or equivalent mass, whatever you call it. Equivalent mass. So equivalent weight or equivalent mass will be equals to molar mass by n factor of the substance. Remember, very important idea. So then instead of molar mass by n factor, I can find out the what? Equivalent mass. Then equivalence will be equals to given weight by equivalent mass. E is nothing but equivalence. EM is a equivalent weight or equivalent mass. This is one relation. Important. This is one important relations. That equivalence will be equals to number of moles into n factors, as well as equivalence will be equals to given weight of the substance in gram by equivalent mass. Again, equivalent mass will be equals to molar mass by n factor. And then you look at, again I can change when I will discuss the titrations related problem, especially for JEE advanced, like a iodometric titrations, iodimetric titrations, or in redox chapter, redox titrations, then this equivalent concept will come into the pictures. So then even you look at equivalence equals to, I told you, number of moles into n factor, I told you. Number of moles again I can change in terms of a molarity into volume of the solution in liter. Already in mole concept and molarity we discussed that part. So then equivalence will be equals to, instead of number of moles, what I can write down? Molarity into volume of solution in liter into n factor. So if volume of solution is giving in ml divided by 1000, then equivalence will be equals to molarity into volume of solution should be in liter, but here they are giving in ml. So that means V divided by 1000, then you got in liter into n factor. We will utilize several places this idea when I will going for titrations related problem discussions. That means what are the important thing for equivalence? This one, and this two we will utilize in several places. That means we need to know equivalence will be equals to number of moles of the substance into n factor or valency factor. Again, equivalence will be equals to given weight by equivalent mass. That way also I can write down whenever what will be required, we will do that thing. Again, equivalent mass or equivalent weight will be equals to that molar mass by n factor. And always remember, equivalent mass is a additive property. Equivalent mass is additive properties. Equivalent mass is a additive property. This point you remember. That means if I say equivalent mass of AB will be equals to equivalent mass of A plus equivalent mass of B. That is the idea. That is called additive property. Equivalent mass of AB will be equals to equivalent mass of A plus equivalent mass of B. That is the idea. And these are the important things always you have to remember. What are the points? That equivalence will be equals to number of moles into n factor. Again, from there we derive that equivalence will be equals to given weight in gram by equivalent mass. Equivalent mass equals to molar mass by n factor. Again, we know equivalence will be equals to molarity into volume of the solution in liter into n factor, because number of moles I can change in terms of a molarity into volume of the solution in liter if volume of the solution given in ml divided by 1000. Is it clear or not? This is the basic fundamental things of equivalence. Then let us look at few more points regarding the equivalence and one or two problem. Then you will be solid on equivalent concept. Look at that one. Suppose any reaction, suppose A is reacting with a B and forming C and D. Suppose this is a chemical equations. That means left hand side is a reactant, general convention, and right hand side is a product side. So now whenever any reaction used to happen, reaction always used to happen in terms of a equivalence. That means as per the law of equivalence, what we can say? That whenever the reaction is fully occurred, so what we can say? That proportion of A which will react with proportion of B, that proportions will be same, and similar proportion of C will be generated and similar proportion of D will be generated. That means as per law of equivalence, what I can say, any reaction will occur as per the law of equivalence. What I can say, equivalence of A will be equals to equivalence of B will be equals to equivalence of C will be equals to equivalence of D. That means what equivalence of A react, same equivalence of B will react, and same equivalence of C will be formed, and same equivalence of D will be formed. So that is the called as a law of equivalence. Equivalence of one reactant will be equals to the equivalence of other reactant, will be equals to the equivalence of product, will be equals to the equivalence of other product. Is it clear or not? So this is called law of equivalence. Now based on that, we need to do some idea regarding metal reacting with oxygen forming metal oxide, metal reacting with hydrogen forming metal hydride, metal reacting with chlorine is forming metal chloride. Like that related problem we need to discuss. Suppose I am telling 8 gram of hydrogen react with 12 gram of metal and forming 20 gram of metal hydride, 20 gram of metal hydride, and then they are asking what is the equivalent mass of metal. Equivalent mass of metal will be equals to how much? That is the questions. EM means always equivalent mass, E means equivalence or gamma equivalence, whatever you call it. Yes or no? So now here 8 gram of hydrogen react with a 12 gram of metal. And another beauty of this concept is you need not to know the balanced equation. So that is the beautifulness of this concept. Without knowing the proper balanced reaction itself, I can solve this problem. That's why personally my favorite idea is a equivalent concept rather than go with a mole concept. Same problem I can solve by mole concept, I can solve by equivalent concept, but I always used to prefer by equivalent concept. It's a beautifulness of that concept. So now immediately what I can write down, suppose my metal M is my metal that is reacting with a hydrogen and this is forming metal hydride. I don't know what is the formula, what is the valency or what is the combining capacity of metal, nothing I don't know. So that's why I just simply write down like this, metal, which is the mole ratio reaction, that also I don't know. I only write down metal plus hydrogen is forming metal hydride. Now as per law equivalence, what I can write down? As per law equivalence, I can write down equivalence of metal means M will be equals to the equivalence of hydrogen. Yes or no? So equivalence of metal will be equals to equivalence of hydrogen. Just now I explained there are different way to represent the equivalence. What are that? Here I will utilize equivalence will be equals to given weight of the substance by equivalent mass. So then equivalence of metal will be equals to weight of metal, that means W means weight of metal, by equivalent mass of metal will be equals to weight of hydrogen or mass of hydrogen by equivalent mass of hydrogen. I can write down. Now you look at the data. They are telling 8 gram of hydrogen react with a 12 gram of metal and forming 20 gram. Everything they provided. Suppose if they are not provide that 12, they are telling 8 gram of hydrogen react with a metal forming 20 gram of metal hydride. Then what is the metal weight? Metal hydride minus hydrogen weight is a metal weight. That way also I can get it. But here clearly they are giving, that's why not required directly, we know that value. So then weight of metal, then if you look at from these equations, if I write down weight of metal, how much? 12. Then by equivalent mass of metal. Equivalent mass of metal will be equals to weight of hydrogen. How much? 8. Divided by equivalent mass of hydrogen. When we are going to find out the equivalent mass of hydrogen, then you look at how I am calculating. Equivalent mass will be equals to molar mass by n factor. Molar mass of what? Hydrogen. Hydrogen means H2, 2 hydrogen. That means if you look at hydrogen compound like a CaH2, here each calcium is plus 2, each hydrogen atom will be minus 1 into 2. So that means if you look at what will be the total charge of 2 hydrogen atom into particular compound, here is calcium is plus 2, each hydrogen minus 1 into 2 atom, then minus 2. Then minus 2 this value if you convert without sign value, that means mod value. Mod of minus 2 means what? 2. That's why n factor of hydrogen is 2. If I say oxygen, O2, so then each oxygen atom in its oxide form carries minus 2 unit charge. That's why 2 oxygen atom means 2 into minus 2, minus 4. Without sign value is n factor. That's why its value should be, n factor for oxygen should be what? 4. But here n factor for hydrogen should be nothing but how much? Is 2. Or we can say that way, my dear. Suppose if you look at hydrogen, generally each hydrogen atom is 1s1. To attain the inert gas configuration, they need to gain how much of electron? So each hydrogen atom will gain 1 electron. So 2 hydrogen atom, H2 means 2 hydrogen atom. 2 hydrogen atom has to gain 2 electron. That's why n factor is 2. That way also we can explain. So that's why n factor for hydrogen is nothing but how much? 2. Then molar mass of hydrogen is 2, n factor is 2, then this equivalent mass of hydrogen is nothing but how much? 1. So then if I keep over here equivalent mass of hydrogen equals to 1, then we got one equation, one unknown. We can find out, that is their question, what is the equivalent mass of metal. From this equation easily you will get the values. Is it clear or not? Understood? Okay. Let us look at for oxygen, same type of nature. If I am selling 8 gram of metal, react with O2 and formed 28 gram of metal oxide. Then they are asking what is the equivalent mass of metal. Same way we will do these problems. How? First I will write down metal react with oxygen and forming a metal oxide. I don't know what is the mole ratio, what is the formula of metal oxide, nothing I don't know. That's why I told fantastic concept is there for us to apply to get that type of things is a equivalent concept. As per the law of equivalence, what I can say, equivalence of metal will be equals to equivalence of oxygen. Yes or no? As per the law of equivalence, I can say equivalence of all the reactant are equal, as well as equivalence of reactant will be equals to equivalence of all the product. So then equivalence of metal will be equals to equivalence of oxygen. Then equivalence equals to what I can say, weight of metal by equivalent mass of metal. Equivalent mass of metal will be equals to weight of oxygen by equivalent mass of oxygen. This is we are getting. Now you look at the data what they are providing. Weight of metal 8 gram we got. Weight of oxygen will be how much? They are telling metal oxide is 28 gram. Then weight of oxygen will be equals to 28 metal oxide minus metal weight, which is nothing but a 20 gram. Yes or no? Yes or no? Metal plus oxygen is forming metal oxide. We know metal weight. We know metal oxide weight. Then what will be the weight of combining oxygen? That metal oxide minus metal weight. So that's why weight of oxygen is nothing but a 20 gram. We got that value. Then I will put over here, weight of metal is 8 gram. Equivalent mass of metal we need to find out. Will be equals to weight of oxygen we got 20. Then equivalent mass of oxygen. Each oxygen, if you look at oxygen electronic configuration, atomic number 8. So electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2 and 2p4. So then there will be a 6 valence electron is there. To attain the inert gas configuration, oxygen need to gain 2 electrons, each oxygen atom. In O2, how many oxygen atom? 2 oxygen atom. That's why. So total how many electron need to gain? 4. That's why N factor for oxygen is how much? 4. So otherwise you can think like this. Calcium oxide. Calcium is plus 2, oxygen is minus 2. Each oxygen atom is minus 2. Then O2 means I need to consider 2 oxygen atom. 2 into minus 2, minus 4. Without sign value, minus 4 will be equals to 4. That's why N factor of oxygen, which will be nothing but a 4. Then equivalent mass of oxygen, molar mass by N factor. Molar mass O2 means 32 by N factor 4, which is nothing but how much? 8. So that's why here weight of metal is 8, equivalent mass of metal by equals to weight of oxygen is 20 by equivalent mass of oxygen, which is 32 by 4. Molar mass is 32, 4 is N factor, which is nothing but a 8. This is your equation. You look at one equation, one unknown. Only they need to find out equivalent mass of metal. From this equation, again, you can calculate this one. Is it clear or not? Okay. Same way, metal plus chlorine, metal chloride. Also, you can do like that way. Okay, na? Only equivalent mass of chlorine is how much? 35.5. Why Cl2? Each chlorine needed 1 electron to gain the inert gas configuration. 2 chlorine atom, N factor will be 2. Then 71 by 2 is nothing but a 35.5. That way you can do that things. So now, next, if I give you another problem based on this idea, equivalent mass of metal hydride is 13. Then equivalent mass of same metal oxide will be how much? That is a question. Equivalent mass of metal hydride is 13, then equivalent mass of same metal oxide will be how much? Now, how to do this one? 1 second, you think about this one. How can I solve this one, sir? Just now when I start the equivalent concept, I told you that idea. How to do this one for these equivalence things? I told equivalent mass is a additive property. Based on that idea, I will utilize and we will solve over here. That equivalent mass of metal hydride will be equals to what I can say, equivalent mass of metal plus equivalent mass of hydrogen, because both are additive property. Yes or no? Then equivalent mass of metal hydride, they are telling 13, will be equals to equivalent mass of metal plus equivalent mass of hydrogen. Just now we calculated, which is 1. Then equivalent mass of metal will be equals to, because equivalent mass, molar mass by N factor, molar mass of hydrogen is 2, N factor is 2, 2 by 2 is 1. So then equivalent mass of metal will be equals to 13 minus 1, which will be equals to 12. And same metal is forming the metal oxide. Then again I can write down equivalent mass of metal oxide. Metal oxide will be equals to equivalent mass of metal oxide equals to equivalent mass of metal plus equivalent mass of oxygen. Equivalent mass is an additive property. Equivalent mass of metal is, we got it 12, and equivalent mass of oxygen is 8. Molar mass by N factor. Molar mass of O2 is 32, N factor is 4, 32 by 4. is a 8. Molar mass by n factor is a equivalent mass. So then equivalent mass of oxygen is 8. 12 plus 8 is nothing but a 20 will be your answer. Is it clear or not? Everybody? Okay. Then we will go with another calculations, and after that n factor discussions. You look at. Next, suppose I have a double decomposition reactions like AB is reacting with a CD is forming AD plus BC. Suppose this is the reaction. Suppose in between AB and AD, I want to find out the relations. Okay, now? Then what I can do over here itself? If you look at very clearly, AD and BC is forming, then I can write down equivalence of AB will be equals to equivalence of AD. All reactions, always it will occur in terms of equivalent, like acid base. Whenever there is a neutralization reaction is there, acid plus base. Acid plus base neutralization reaction, your salt and water will be the product. Everybody knows from 10th standard onwards. So here also at equivalence point or end point. That means end point means whatever amount of acid is fully consumed by base or whatever amount of base is fully consumed by acid. That is called equivalence point. At equivalence point, equivalence of acid will be equals to equivalence of base. Again will be equals to equivalence of salt formed, equivalence of water formed. But I not needed that one, only these two things I needed. That's what I make it. Equivalence of acid will be equals to equivalence of base. And after that, whenever what requires, I can change number of moles into n factor. Again, I can change number of moles in terms of a what? Molarity into volume of the solution in liter. If it is there in ml divided by 1000. Yes or no? And then n factor calculation, acid, base and salt I will tell you, and redox, during redox reactions we will discuss. Now, here equivalence of these we did, then I can write down weight of AB by equivalent mass of AB. Same way, weight of AD by equivalent mass of AD. Then weight of AB here, equivalent mass of AD, I can take this side. What I can write down? Equivalent mass of AD by equivalent mass of AB will be equals to weight of AD by weight of AB. And then equivalent mass of AD I can write down equivalent mass of A plus equivalent mass of D by equivalent mass of A plus equivalent mass of B will be equals to weight of AD by weight of AB. I can do these things. Yes or no? Simply these two I made it equivalence. Yes or no? And after that I did. Whenever what type of these things is required, you can do that one. Yes or no? Now you look at how to calculate the n factor for different types of acid, base and salt. Suppose you look at n factor calculations for acid. What is n factor calculations? So what is telling? Number of ionizable or replaceable, number of ionizable or replaceable or basicity of the acid is n factor for acid. So how many ionizable H plus is there, or how many replaceable H plus is there, or what is the basicity? Basicity means 1 unit of base, means 1 unit of OH minus can take how many total unit of H plus from the corresponding acid species is nothing but a n factor. That's why how many H plus it can provide, or how many H plus it can replace by other cation, or how many OH minus can consume the H plus from particular acid is nothing but or how many OH minus it can take. Basicity means the particular acid, how many OH minus it can take. Because acid reacting with base means it is taking the OH minus. So that's why how many unit of OH minus it can take, that is nothing but a basicity of the acid. So that's why that whenever they are telling N factor for acid, it's nothing but a number of ionizable H plus, number of replaceable H plus, or basicity of the acid means how many OH minus it can consume or it can take is nothing but a basicity of the acid. Now if I give some example, as for example, here I am giving acid, here I am giving replaceable hydrogen, replaceable or ionizable H plus, and here N factor. So if I give these things, suppose HCl, it can provide you only one H plus, replaceable is 1, N factor is 1. Suppose if I am giving him HNO3, replaceable or ionizable 1, N factor 1. If I am giving him H2SO4, replaceable or ionizable is 2, N factor is 2. It can provide 2 H plus. If I am giving him H3PO4, phosphoric acid, 3, N factor is 3. But if I give you H3PO3, here replaceable is 2, N factor is 2. If you look at H3PO2, replaceable of ionizable 1, N factor is 1. Sir, how it is coming? Total hydrogen is not replaceable, yes or no? How many? For this understanding, you need to know the structure. H3PO4 structures you look at, my dear. This is a H3PO4. H3PO4. That means which are the hydrogen attached with the oxygen. Oxygen is more electronegative atom. That means in electronegativity we will study which has a more power to withdraw the bonded electron pair towards itself. So because of that it can release the H plus very quickly. So which is only associated with the oxygen, that can be released as a H plus. So there are 3 hydrogen attached with that one. So that's why here N factor equals to 3 H plus it can provide, or 3 ionizable H plus is there, or replaceable H plus is there. But whereas H3PO2 structure, if you look at, this is a phosphoric acid, phosphorus acid, hypophosphorus acid. In group 15 we will study in detail, you need not to worry. So now if you look at that one, this one, this is a phosphoric acid or orthophosphoric acid, phosphoric acid, phosphorus acid, phosphorus acid, and here you look at only 2 hydrogen attached with the oxygen which are ionizable and replaceable. That's why N factor is 2. Which is attached with the phosphorus, it's not ionizable. Why? Because phosphorus is not that much of electronegative, withdraw the electron and release the H plus. Only which are associated with the oxygen, that can be go as a H plus, and electron can take the oxygen and O minus. So now if you look at the H3PO2 structure, H3PO2 hypophosphorus acid, this is hypophosphorus acid, hypophosphorus acid, hypophosphorus acid. Now here N factor equals to 1 because only hydrogen attached with oxygen which is ionizable and replaceable. That is the idea. Now if I am giving you H3BO3, boric acid, what is the N factor of boric acid? Some people will think N factor equals to 3, but here N factor equals to 1 for boric acid. Boric acid is a non-protonic acid. This is a non-protonic acid. What is called non-protonic acid, sir? Non-protonic acid is nothing but the acid which cannot give the H plus, but it can accept the OH minus. That is called as a non-protonic acid. So now these things we can write down formula like this. BOH whole 3. Now it can accept 1 unit of OH minus and it can be converted to BOH whole 4 minus. That's why it can accept the 1 unit of base. Basicity is 1. That's why N factor for boric acid is 1. Is very important. So you understood how to calculate that N factor for the acid. Now if you look at next one, N factor for the bases. N factor calculations for bases. So very easily you can do it. Same way, number of replaceable or ionizable OH minus or acidity of the base is a N factor. If I give example, as for example, suppose NaOH, it can provide 1 unit of OH minus. So N factor, this one will be 1. Calcium hydroxide, it can give 2 unit of OH minus, N factor is 2. Like aluminum hydroxide, it can give 3 unit of OH minus in a solution, N factor is 3, no issue. So you understood how to calculate N factor for acid and base. N factor for salt. How to calculate the N factor for salt? If I take few example, then you will get a full clarity. Like I am taking NaCl. So here telling total charge on the cation and anion mod value means absolute value without sign value is a N factor. Total charge on the cation or anion. Total charge on cation, either cation you consider or anion, absolute value of that one, is N factor or valency factor. Total charge on cation or anion, absolute value of that one is N factor. Absolute value means without sign value. Now if you look at NaCl, how it will be ionized? Na plus Cl minus. If I consider cation means Na plus, total charge is there how much? 1 unit of charge. Then N factor will be equals to mod of plus 1, which is nothing but a 1. So N factor equals to 1. If I calculate anion, mod of minus 1, which equals to 1. That means either cation or anion, total charge I need to consider. Suppose if I am giving you like this way. Suppose I am giving you Al2SO4 whole thrice. Then what will be the N factor for this one? You do it. On dissociation, what you will get? First you write down the salt when they are giving. On dissociation, what cation you are getting with a number, what anion you are getting with a number. 2Al plus 3 and SO4, 3SO4, 2 minus. This is the number of anion and this is the charge of anion. Then only these used to form. What will be the charge of anion? That will come as a number of cation. What is the charge of cation? That will come as a number of anion. That is called crisscross. That only salt used to form. So now here if I calculate the N factor in terms of a cation, total charge will be equals to each carrying cation plus 3 charge, and as a number 2 is there, then total charge plus 3 into 2, which is nothing but a mod of plus 6, which is nothing but a 6. Same way for, or we can do for anion. So for anion, if I do, same value will come. You look at. So total charge of anion is carrying minus 2. How many number it is there? As a number 3 is there, which is mod of minus 6, which is nothing but a 6. That means aluminum sulfate N factor, either in terms of a cation you can do or in terms of anion it's doing same thing, only it is coming 6. Is it clear? Same way, can you tell me for another one? Suppose if I am giving you potash alum. I am asking the N factor. How you will do? Potash alum means K2SO4, Al2SO4 whole thrice, and 24H2O. 24H2. Water of crystallization is there, but we need not to consider when we are doing for n factor calculations. So then here you have to look at total charge of cation. For that purpose, on dissociation, what it will give, that is first you write. This one what it will give, 2Al plus 3 plus 3SO4 2 minus. I told you any one you can consider, either cation or anion. I am considering cation. Then total charge of the cation or anion mod value. So then if you consider from potassium side, each potassium carrying is plus 1 units charge. How many number is there? 2. Then each aluminum is carrying plus 3 unit of charge. How many number is there? 2. So then if you look at this is mod value, then we are getting plus 2 and plus 6 mod. So then we are getting over here mod of plus 8, which is nothing but a 8. That means N factor for potassium sulfate, aluminum sulfate 24H2, which is nothing but a potassium, is 8. If you consider anion, same thing is coming. You look at 3 into minus 2 minus 6, 1 into minus 2 minus 2, minus 6 and minus 2 minus 8, mod of minus 8 is 6. So that is the idea. Total charge of the cation or anion is a N factor. Suppose if any ion is there, like iron plus 2. If I am saying what is the N factor for these things, 2. Charge on the ion is a N factor. If I have a SO4 2 minus, if I am telling what is the N factor for this, 2. Charge on the ion is a N factor for particular ion. Is it clear? This is the idea. Now, as of now we discussed for the acid ionizable H plus or replaceable. Let us discuss one important idea which will help you to understand that type of questions. Suppose if I write down the equation like this, NaOH react with a H3PO4 and forming NaH2PO4 plus H2O. Now, in this reaction, if I am asking N factor for H3PO4, what is that value, my dear? Everybody will say, sir, teach me H3PO4 N factor is 3, as there are 3 replaceable or ionizable. H plus is nothing but a N factor for the acid. But that is a maximum capacity. But they are asking in particular this reaction, what is the N factor? There are definitely 3 ionizable H plus is there in H3PO4. But out of that, how many replaced? You look at how many is replaced by sodium, only 1. So that's why only 1 H plus is ionized in this particular reaction or replaced in this particular reaction. That's why N factor for H3PO4 for this particular reaction is nothing but a 1. That's why chemistry are difficult. So situation what telling that only you need to know. Overall capacity or maximum capacity is 3, but in a particular reaction is replacing only 1. That's why in this particular reaction, N factor for H3PO4 is 1. Is it clear? Okay. I hope is it clear to everyone. Everyone understood this one. And next class we will start discussing about the normality. Now you are ready to go with the normality and rest of the concentration term. I hope everybody understood the concept. Okay, if you understood, if you loving my channel, please study into my channel. Everything will be taken care. Please like, share and go with this channel and be confident in chemistry. Thank you very much. Thank you all.